The Secretary of State unloaded yesterday on the state treasurer. And guys, this is awesome. The Indiana Republican Party, the mask is being pulled back right in front of us. They're imploding right in front of us. And look, if I were Diego Morales, I would spend the next 3 weeks and the $1 million that I have in my campaign account being the world's biggest troll. I would burn the Republican Party that has abandoned him. I would burn the Republican Party that are complete hypocrites. I would burn the Republican Party that has known exactly what he is. For years, I would burn it to the ground. If you're going out, go out in style. Every one of these people who has turned on him knew exactly what he was for years, and they enabled him. They emboldened him. They went along with him, and they did it. They did it for political purposes and self-preservation. Primarily, a whole lot of the money that flows into Diego Morales also flows into the rest of these people. They are abandoning him now because they firmly believe, as I laid out in an IndyStar article 2 weeks ago, they're going to lose the office if he's the nominee. They firmly believe that if Diego Morales is the nominee, the Republicans will lose the office. That's it. That's what it's all about. They're not sorry for supporting him all of these years. They're not sorry that they didn't do anything to stop him. They're not sorry that they allowed this egregious behavior, repetitively egregious behavior, to go on. These Republicans are only worried now that he's going to lose. If Greg Ballard's on the ballot and Bo Bai is the nominee, they're going to lose the office to Bai. That's what this is all about. And if you're Diego Morales, don't let him do it. Don't let him do it. Expose it all. In many ways, Diego's a moron, okay? I don't think Diego's ever been in control of his own destiny. I think he's a figurehead stooge. And so in a weird way, Diego's almost like a victim in all of this. I mean, he's a willing victim. But all of these people who now cry foul, all of the people who have abandoned him, all of the people who have turned and run, all the people who now condemn him, again, you notice, none of them actually want him investigated. Rokita, Banks, these county chairs, none of them are actually calling for investigations into Diego Morales. They'll talk about scandals. They'll even use the word like Rokita did. But they don't want him investigated. They don't want the truth exposed. They want him to go away. And if you're Diego Morales, you can't let that happen because these people knew what you were the entire time. They knew what you were, and they let it happen. And if you're interested in more of this via the printed word, I have a new column out in the IndyStar today talking about just this. Talking about how the Republican Party gets more shameful by the day in the sense that they refuse to actually want accountability for Diego. They refuse to actually want justice on Diego. And they're very careful about their words. And we go into this in the article. They're very careful about the words they use because there is a good chance, even if it's just by association, many of these people would be implicated in whatever investigation is done into Diego. And so you can read that today in the Indy Star. And we're going to talk about it a little bit about it here. So the big news yesterday was that Diego Morales finally addressed Elena Cupsey. Now, Elena Cupsey is this mysterious woman who has seemingly disappeared, who, it appears, according to Jim Banks, U.S. Senator, according to the reporting by Abdul at Indy Politics, was working in the Secretary of State's office, rose to the level of Deputy Chief of Staff as a non-citizen of this country. Think about that for a second, guys. The person who oversees elections and businesses in our country had a non-citizen as his deputy chief of staff. A guy who had made America first and the Trump agenda and holding illegal immigrants accountable and all of this stuff, right? Had a non-citizen working as his deputy chief of staff. We're not talking about someone who answers the phones. We're not talking about the janitor. We are talking about someone who, at least on paper, served as the gatekeeper to a statewide office holder who has access to the personal information of millions of Hoosiers. It's a major story. And then on top of that, the state treasurer came out and said this woman was illegally in the country. So a week has gone by since this story broke from Abdul, first over at Indy Politics. And finally, yesterday, Diego, in a letter to delegates of the state convention who will decide his fate, addressed the issue. Now, full disclosure, guys, in the letter that Diego sent to delegates, he included his phone number. And what I want to ask you guys now is what I should do with this. It was a public letter to delegates. It was not a private correspondence. It was not shared to me as a DM or anything like that. It was a public letter that went out to delegates. Diego included his phone number on the letter and asked people to call him if they had any questions. So in the YouTube chat, I want you guys to let me know, and we'll address this later on. By the way, if you're new to the program, again, welcome. The way our YouTube chat works is you have to be a subscriber to our channel in order to chat. We have an awesome community. We get hundreds and hundreds of comments every single day. We have a great group of people. They're awesome. You'll love them. The only thing we ask you to do in order to be a commenter in our YouTube chat is you have to be a subscriber to the channel. And at the end of each day, producer Jason reads some of the best comments of the day, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. So my question to you guys in the YouTube chat, is it fair game for me to take that phone number that Diego publicly gave out and asked people to call him if they had questions and call him? Now, the reason I ask is it was sent to delegates, but it was publicly sent to delegates. And I really am being serious when I ask this. I am not a person who wants to sandbag people. I've been trying for a week now to get a message to Diego Morales over multiple channels. And now he's given out his phone number. It was given to delegates, though. So does it make me a bad person if indeed I use the phone number that he publicly gave out? I would not do this if he had not given out the phone number publicly, even though it was given to delegates, if I call him and request that he do an interview. What do you guys think? What's the etiquette on this? Does it make me a bad person? Look, and I mean this with all sincerity, and multiple people in the State House have agreed with me on this. The best thing Diego could do at this point is do an interview with me. He would break the internet. The amount of views that thing would get would be off the charts. And if he wants to come in here and be combative, which would be great, it would show the delegates he's willing to fight. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of these delegates who absolutely hate my guts. I am being 100% sincere when I say the best thing Diego could do for his campaign, which is going down the toilet as we speak, is come in here and do the interview with me. Look, he knows what he's going to get asked, right? He knows the things I want to know about. It's way better for him to have an answer for him. They're probably going to come out anyway in the next couple weeks. And then once we get through those things, we are in agreement on who these people are that are abandoning him and how they're treating him and how ridiculous that is, for different reasons, of course. But then he can make that case. So what do you guys think? Is it fair game for me to call this phone number that he gave out in the email that he sent out to the delegates? Now, there's 1,800 delegates or so, right? So it's not like this just went out to 5 people. It went out to probably, well, I would guess 1,800 plus people. Is that fair game? Let me know. I'm curious what you guys think. If you guys say it's fair game, I'm calling him later today. But here's what happened yesterday. Diego Morales, in this letter to the delegates, said this about about Cupsey. Now notice, in this letter, everything I'm about to read to you, at no point does he deny that she is not a U.S. citizen. Of all the words that are used here, at no point is he like, that is ludicrous, she's totally a citizen. Notice the words that he uses. Quote, the employee in my office that was the subject of Mr. Elliott's attack. Now remember, Daniel Elliott, the state treasurer, who knew, by the way, for years what Diego was. I took a letter to his office a year and a half ago begging him to help me stop Diego. Begging him to help me demand investigations into Diego. You know what he did? He laughed at me. He laughed at me. He was the only statewide who was in their office. I dropped the letter off to every statewide office holder. Elise Nishala, the comptroller, Daniel Elliott, the treasurer, Micah Beckwith, the lieutenant governor, Mike Braun, the governor, Todd Rokita, the attorney general. Well, and I dropped it off to Diego's office as well, assuming I wouldn't get any help there. But I really thought when I did this, and if you guys remember, we filmed this, we put a video out of me doing this. I really thought, okay, somebody, one of these people is going to be like, you know what, he's right, enough's enough. We got to do something about this guy. None of them did, and Daniel Elliott laughed about it. But now Daniel Elliott, once everyone else is piled on, he's turned into a real Billy Badass. And look, everything I'm telling you guys right now, Elliott and I had it out the other day. He, to his credit, he called me. I told him everything, well, not to his face, but through the phone, that I'm telling you guys right now. And I give him credit. He called. Unlike the rest of these guys, he's not a big wussy. I want to say something else, but we decided to go back to the family-friendly version of the program. You never know who might be listening. You never know when your next potential job opportunity might be tuning in. He called me and I told him, I said, you guys are awful because you're only doing it now because you want him out of the office because you're worried he's going to lose. And there really isn't a lot of denying about it. I mean, again, a year and a half ago, I walked into that office with Elliott and his lunch club employees who, other than sitting around and eating, I'm not sure what they do or did all day. And I begged him to help. I said, please stop this guy. You've always seemed like a really decent dude. You've always seemed like the one guy in the State House that's about the people. Please help me stop this guy. Please use your bully pulpit to demand action. They laughed at me. They thought it was funny. Not funny anymore. But it's not funny because they're worried about the trip to India or that getting exposed or Diego rolling around with a high-profile known felon who went down on federal bribery charges or voting in a county different from where you take your homestead credit or the endless list of crap this guy's pulled. It's not funny now because the office is going down unless they do something. So Elliott came out, claimed that the woman was illegally in the country, Elena Cupsey, and on top of saying Diego should drop out of the race, also said Diego should resign the office of Secretary of State. But again, notice, nobody, including Elliott, ever demands criminal investigation. If Diego has done something so heinous, Daniel Elliott, that he needs to resign the office, why are you not demanding that Ryan Mears launch a criminal investigation? Tell us what it is and demand that. Why are you not demanding that the Inspector General for the state of Indiana, and this goes for Todd Rokita as well, who is the chief law enforcement officer for our state, why aren't you guys demanding that Ryan Mears launch a criminal investigation into whatever the scandal is that was so bad that you guys have lost your minds a month before the convention, and the Inspector General launch an investigation as well? They don't want that because they don't want the truth. Because if the truth comes out, no matter whether it's Engling or Diego or Shelton or whoever, by the way, speaking of Shelton, David Shelton is going to be with us in a little bit. David Shelton is the Knox County clerk, and David Shelton today is going to reveal that he believes he was bribed by the Indiana Republican Party to try to get out of the race, that they offered him a job in exchange for getting out of the race when the Republican Party was all behind Diego. That's the hypocrisy of these people. A month ago, it was Shelton, here's a job for you if you'll get out because we're worried about Diego. They were worried about Diego going down at convention. And it's all about control. The reason now is they believe Engling, they've got control of him. They don't want Shelton because Shelton's an outsider. Shelton's problem is he's incredibly boring, and I worry he's not going to be able to properly influence the delegates on his behalf because delegates at the convention are activists, a lot of them. They want red meat. They want grenades. That's not his personality. But you guys need to stick around for that because coming up later, David Shelton is going to reveal he believes he was bribed to try to get out of the Secretary of State's race. That's how pathetic these people have known Diego was for a long time. So here's what Diego said. The employee in my office that was subject of Mr. Elliott's attack was cleared to work by the Indiana Personnel Department HR Division. She was lawfully work authorized under state law. The agency that cleared her to work in my office handles background checks and work authorization verification for state agencies, including mine. Not the question, Diego. The question is, was this woman a non-citizen? Notice he never addresses that because, according to numerous people now, including a United States Senator, she was not. The Secretary of State who has made America first, his whole dealio, right, had a non-citizen as his gatekeeper. It's not about whether she was eligible to work, Diego. Lots of non-citizens are eligible to work. Republicans, the party of Diego, pays for them to come here all the time. They take our money through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. They take your hard-earned money, your taxes, and they give it to foreign corporations who push in non-citizen workers. We know they're eligible to work, Diego. Our money's taken and given to them all the time. Quote, we followed the legal process and we followed the law, period. Anyone suggesting otherwise is either misinformed or deliberately misleading Hoosiers. Okay, so he's talking about Elliott claiming, I think we can accept now this woman was a non-citizen. Right? I think we can accept that. And if that's wrong, she should sue Jim Banks. The question now is, at any point, was this woman illegally in the country while she was working for you? And where has she disappeared to? Look, people do not leave deputy chief of staff jobs and go nowhere. It was, what, $160,000 job, according to Abdul? It's a high-ranking government position. People do leave those positions, but they don't leave to work at Target. They might leave to run Target, but they don't just willfully leave those positions. Where is this woman at? I want to hear from her. Where did she go? She has disappeared. And how is it possible that someone who worked for the Pacers and the Fever and the Dolphins and then rose, first of all, how did she rise to a deputy chief of staff? What in her background was you were like, Diego, yeah, that's the ticket. I'm going to hire her. I'm going to hire her as my deputy chief of staff. That's a major question. And where did she go to? What job did she take? Is she still in the country? Until those questions get answered. Look, the bigger issue right now is that the state treasurer has alleged this woman was illegally in the country. This is not some just rando on the internet. This is the state treasurer of Indiana. Was Alina Cupsey at any point illegally in the country while working for Diego Morales? There's like two sides to this story. There's big story, which is non-citizen is deputy chief of staff for Secretary of State. That's a big story. It would be a big story, period, but it's a big story of Diego's making because he's Mr. America first. And the unanswered question, which is mega story, if true, is, was this woman illegally in the country while serving as the Deputy Chief of Staff for the Secretary of State? Then Diego unloads on Elliott. This is great. Mr. Elliott either does not know hiring procedures of Indiana state government or willfully took a cheap shot at me in a text someone wrote for him to score political points and tarnish our record of success for the people of Indiana and the integrity of our elections. You may ask why my office and myself are being targeted by political insiders and power brokers. And I believe the answer is clear. I stood with President Trump and supported redrawing our congressional maps, while Treasurer Elliott stood with Rod Bray in opposition to the president and redrawing the maps. Yes, Diego, very good. Keep going. Diego is insinuating that Daniel Elliott said he had someone illegally in the country working as his deputy chief of staff because Diego was for redistricting and Daniel Elliott was against it and is a tool of Rod Bray, the pro tem of the Senate. Stop, it's the family program. This is great. This is what needs to happen. Because Diego should not take the blame for Diego alone. Diego is a product of the system that propped him up, that promoted him, and enabled him. Daniel Elliott has known for 4 years what Diego was. Go back to 2022. He didn't really want any part of running with Diego. And someone should ask Elliott right now, would he run with Diego if Diego's the nominee? Daniel Elliott, Jim Banks, Todd Rokita, Mike Braun, Elise Nishala, all of them. They all have known what Diego is. I blame the House and Senate, too. Rod Bray, Todd Houston. What did they do? They fully funded his budgets. They gave him the money that he asked for. You know, like the money that was used for no-bid contracts for people that were mega donors to his campaign. The money that was used to buy the $90,000 car. The money that was used for state resources to film a campaign commercial. We don't know what money was used for India because he won't say, other than, I pay. This guy is a total, Diego Morales, is a total sleaze bucket. But what does that make you if you know? If you know someone is a walking, talking, ethical time bomb, legal time bomb, totally corrupt, and you do nothing about it, and you're in a position to do something about it, what does that make you? That doesn't make you any better. And when the Republicans had a chance to do something about it, they don't say, hey, enough is enough. Here's the dirty on Diego. Time for him to go. We're behind David Shelton. Oh, no. They go find a Jim Banks stooge and then go, well, we'll just lie to everybody and tell everyone this is the most amazing guy who ever lived and that he's the reincarnation of Reagan and he's going to do a gajillion things that he has absolutely no power over. And that's Max Engling. Because it's not about fixing the system. It's not about rooting out corruption. It's not about getting politics out of a non-political office. Look, the Secretary of State is an administrator of the will of the General Assembly. That's it. That's all they're supposed to be. I see this Engling guy out promising to do this, and I'm going to do that, and blah, 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 blah. No, you're not. You will do it if the General Assembly says to do it. That's why the whole thing with Diego has been so ridiculous. Diego only has the power to do what the General Assembly tells him to do. This whole thing is a complete stain on the Republican Party. It's great for us. It's gold. It's absolute gold because it is so much more than just Diego. It's exposing to you who these people actually are in real time, and they can't hide it. I mean, they're trying to hide it. But if you actually look, they can't hide it.